Hello everyone. Today we will study the chapter Humanities versus Science by S.Radhakrishnan. Sarvepalli Radhakrishna, 1888 to 1975. Served as the second President of India, 1962 to 1967. 1962 to 1967. Second President of India. And also chaired the educational commissions after India's independence, also known as Radhakrishna's commissions. With extensive knowledge of both Western and Indian philosophical traditions, his views on education and philosophy focused on a balance of technology and spirituality. Educated at Woodhis College, Vellore, and Madras Christian College, University of Madras, he went on to hold professorships in some of the most prestigious universities of the world, including the University of Oxford and the University of Chicago. In India, he served as professor at the University of Madras, Mysore, and Calcutta. He also served as Vice Chancellor of Andhra University and Banaras Hindu University and Chancellor of the University of Delhi. His writings have illuminated many vital issues concerning human life and is relevant for all times. The three obstacles which stand in the way of national development are ignorance, disease, and poverty. Ignorance, disease, and poverty. Of this, the major obstacle is ignorance. Ignorance is the major obstacle. If we are able to remove ignorance from men's mind, their poverty will diminish. Their disease also will be eliminated. That is very essential. We have been trying to achieve through our 5-year plans a kind of economic development which will lead to the spread of education, the removal of illiteracy, removal of illiteracy, the lowering of the incidence of disease, and the elimination as much as possible of poverty. We have men and women energetic and eager to do their best, and we have vast natural resources also. In spite of all these things, what is it that prevents us from achieving something great and glorious? Here, I say that it is the lack of proper education in quality as well as quantity. When we look at the country and the vast problems which it is facing, it is the educated men who have competence and skill, who have a sense of direction, who have a social purpose. It is such people who will able to transform our societies. If we are to achieve that, we have to tackle our educational problems more seriously than we have done hitherto. This must be regarded as the highest priority in any kind of social and economic reconstruction in our country. Technological education. People nowadays are greatly attracted by technological education, and naturally too. But we should also remember that technological education without complement of humanistic will be imperfect. These are complementary to each other. But we should also remember it will be imperfect, lopsided. lopsided and deficient. One will be greater and other will be lower, other will be ignored. It is possible for us by the control we have obtained over the forces of nature to bring above paradise on earth. It is equally possible for us by pressing a button to destroy continents. If the choice is to be made wisely, we must be cultivated in the arts of civilized life. Humanistic training and technological study must be regarded as complementary to each other. This is important. The both technology and humanistics ethical values are complementary to each other. They should not be regarded as divorced or as separated from each other. The industrial growth of our country requires a large number of scientists, technicians, and engineers. The rush in our university for courses in science and technology is natural. Men trained in these practical courses help to increase productivity, agriculture, and industrial. They also hope to find employment easily. To help the students to earn a living is one of the functions of education. I do not believe that scientific and technological studies are devoid of moral values. Science is both knowledge and power. It has interest as well as utility. It is illuminating as well as fruitful. It demands discipline, devotion to the pursuit of truth. It develops in its votaries an attitude of tolerance, open mindedness, freedom from prejudice, and hospitality to new ideas. Science reveals us to the inexhaustible richness of the world, its unexpectedness, its wonder. Nevertheless, these qualities are developed by science incidentally and not immediately. It does not directly deal with the non-intellectual aspects of human nature. Economic man who produces and consumes. The intellectual man, the scientific man is not the whole man. The disproportionate emphasis on science and technology has been causing concern to thinking men all over the world. The great crimes against civilization are committed not by the primitive and the uneducated, but by the highly educated and the so called civilized. Humanities. We came to the universities to be equipped with the knowledge and the skill by which we will be able to help the building of our country, building up of our country. Are we doing it? Are the university providing the right material for the nation building operation? Are they giving them the knowledge and the skill which are essential for any kind of process? Yes, come here to study sciences. You come here to study sciences, to study humanities, to study technology also, which is not an unimportant science. Science itself is necessary because the wonders of science have transformed the world, transformed this world. It is wrong to think, as once upon a time, Blake said, the tree of life is sustained by art, the tree of death by science. Blake statement was that the tree of life is sustained by art and the death by science. He is completely ignoring the science and only supporting the ethical values. It is a misleading conception. Science may be abused, but that is not the fault of science. That is the fault of man. It is therefore essential for us to provide our students with the best that is possible in science and technology. It is because these things it is because these things that help us to provide the necessities for our people. Humanities again are important because they tell us about our own nature, how we have to grow from day to day. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan is not agreeing with the Blake's idea. He is disagree with the Blake's idea. What are the impulses? What the impulses are, what the ideas and aspirations are. These are the things that we have to learn from the humanities. But whether it is sciences or humanities, whether they are natural sciences or social sciences, they touch only the periphery of the reality outside. They touch only the outside, the expression, the multiplicity of manifestations. But what the central being is, you have to learn also. If a student is to consider himself to be a really educated, mere sciences, natural or social, are not enough. The function of the universities is not merely to send out technically skilled and professionally competent men, but it is their duty to produce in them the quality of compassion, the quality which enables the individual to treat one another in a truly democratic spirit. Democratic spirit. Our religions have proclaimed from the very beginning that each human individual is to be regarded as a spark of the divine. Tat Tvam Asi. That art, though, is the teaching of the Upanishads. National education does not mean that subjects like physics and chemistry, engineering and technology change with the boundaries of nations. It means that there is a national heritage, a tradition of values into which the students should be initiated. India is not a geographical abstraction but a living spirit. The outlook associated with the country has been a spiritual one, that there are higher laws of the universe than those studied by sciences and technology, that the world is more than what we see, feel, touch, and measure. Two principal features of the modern world are that we are members one of another, that there is no decree of God or man which compels us to be sick and hungry, poor and unemployed. The strong shall help the weak is the foundation of all civilized existence. As the Bhagavad Gita has it, we should aim at wisdom as well as knowledge. Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. At a time when we are obsessed with technical achievements rather than with absolute values, with practical work rather than with a full life, it is good to realize that technology is for men and not men for technology. The material things of the world are to be used for expanding men's knowledge and enriching the treasures of the spirit. It is not enough to feed the human animal or train the human mind. We must also attend to the needs of the human spirit. We must learn to live from new bases, discover the reserves of spirituality and the sense of the sacred found in all religions. Search for truth. There is, however, no incompatibility between findings of science and the doctrines of religion. The search of truth is their common goal. True, they have different ways of approach to it. Since God is truth, Satya Swarupa, the quest of truth is the quest of God. Man who makes the machine is greater than the machine. He who splits the atom is greater than the atom. Science does not suggest the omnipotence of matter. It suggests the supremacy of the spirit of man, the spirit which moves in the minds of the man, which inspires and guides them in this quest is divine. The word Brahman connotes both the truth which is sought and the spirit in us which seeks it. A scientific view of the world reveals to us a central mystery which is not disclosed to scientific observations. Our attitude to it should be one of pity, humility, and adoration. We must acknowledge that truth belongs to God and ideas belong to men. The poison of intolerance and inconsistency with the mystery of God. Too much blood has been unnecessarily and unjustly shed in the name of religion doctrine. The different religions are great spiritual achievements of man, and we should take pride not in that one special production of mankind, but in all. For all are fellow pilgrims, treading our way to the truth in every great faith. Tirukkural is claimed by the followers of Jainism, Buddhism, and Hinduism, and teaches a universal humanism. True religion requires us to extend our sympathy even to those who do not belong to our group. Religious pride may make us hold that true religion is our own, that we are the people and wisdom shall die with us. It is necessary that if we want to attack the problem which our country faces, poverty, malnutrition, disease, defective water supply, people dying like flies in some parts of the country. These are all things which must make us feel ashamed of ourselves. It is necessary for us to care for the poor. Attention to the poor is the supreme test by which any government is judged. If we are able to, if we are to be judged to be a civilized society, our first interest must be what we are doing for the thousands of people who are suffering from undreamed of evils, who are the victims, so to say, of all sorts of epidemics, and who died like flies on the pavement of our country or in rural areas. If we want to tackle these problems, it is essential for us to develop science and technology. We must develop these things. We must adopt a scientific outlook. Every one of us must be endowed with a scientific spirit. Obscurantism, superstition, and such other things which have weighted us down for centuries must be removed, and human beings must feel that they are rational human beings with dignity, with a sense of responsibility. Responsibility not merely for what they do, but for the poor who are entrusted to their care. Again and again, remarks were made. A special lecture was delivered at Cambridge saying that a scientific culture and an academic or literary culture are two different things, and one has little to do with the other. We produce either seeds of technicians, we produce men of intuition, or of imagination, or we produce men with mechanical skill, with practical ability, but we do not produce men who are at the same time seeks and technicians, people who are able to develop their imagination and at the same time develop their scientific skill. This whole concept of our culture being divided, of there being two, is something which is to my mind unfounded. Truth is indivisible, whether it is historic truth, literary truth, or scientific truth. Historic truth, literary truth, or scientific truth, the approaches may be different, but ultimately what we do is exactly the same. It is the imagination that is roused in us by the study of literature. It is imagination again that makes the scientist go forward his hypothesis, makes him remold the environment by which he is presented, and makes him bring out the deepest secrets of nature. It is the spirit in man that sits in judgment on the facts of nature, which enables the human being to reshape the environment. We should reshape our not merely our outer environment but our inner environment also, our inward forces, the internal power we have. Even that has to be remolded. And then the knowledge and wisdom. Most of us think that we are scientists because we press a button, the light comes up. We press another button, the telephone rings. We press a third button, we get the motor car outside. But we do not know how these things function. What is the knowledge which is enshrined in this instrument? We know only how to press a button and get something done. That is, we live on the surface of human life, robots, mechanics, technicians. We do not know what the depth of these things indicate and stand for. If we know that, we will never say that science is a different discipline and not human discipline. And the other things, literature, history, etc., make a different kind of man. It is not so. We must study science not from the surface but from its very depth. We must try to understand how all these things happen, how the human being has been able to penetrate into these things, and how it has brought about a new transformed world. It is not necessary for us to be technologically or mechanically uniform. That does not follow. If we have the human spirit cultivated, we will not become more mechanical robots. The very transformation that science has brought about will make you raise the question of the meaning of existence. That is part of the quest for knowledge. You want to know why knowledge is what it is. What is the knowledge which science contributes? What is the relation to the knowledge which other branches of discipline give us? There is a general criticism leveled against us that where our knowledge of nature is increasing, our wisdom is diminishing. The spectacular achievements of science are very impressive, and they have got such great power in their control that they can devastate the world. If there are people who contemplate the results of nuclear developments, they will feel, what is it that has happened to man? Why is it that he has increased in worldly power, has so much extended his body through his control over radio, television, and other machines, and yet his soul seems to be stagnant? It is not growing correspondingly. That is, there is disproportion between the growth of wisdom and the increase of knowledge. It is that disparity that has impressed many people. Let us try to extend our understanding of the nature of things. Let us have certain values which will be utilized by the mechanical devices and contrivances we have brought about. It is necessary for us to know whatever may be the nature of science. It is the spirit of man that is expressing itself there. Every human individual must look up to himself, not as living on the outer surface of things. There is a living depth in him. There is a central there which persists, which abides whatever may be the changes. There is some spiritual inadequacy bordering on literacy among the graduates of our country. They go through their routine, they pass their examinations, and yet do not seem to know that what the first principles of Indian culture are. If we live today, it is not because of our great industrial progress or mechanical efficiency or our atom bombs, mechanical efficiency or our atom bombs and things like that. We live today because there are still people who illustrate for commonality the path of spirituality and the behavior of something which is divinely ordained. Because spirituality, because of spirituality and their behavior is something which is divinely ordained. It is such people who represent the true culture of our country. Adhyatma Vidya of all sciences, the greatest science is the knowledge of your own self. The conclusion is that technical subjects are usually favored and considered more important and useful than the humanities. The main theme in Radhakrishna's prose piece, Humanities versus Science, is that this flawed perception can be a reason for the many imbalances in the society. In order to remove ignorance, disease, and poverty from Indian society, he advocates a transformation in the national educational system by giving both science and humanities equal importance. He posits that knowledge cannot be obtained by science or humanities alone, and that a deep understanding of both, along with respect for our culture and spirituality, can help in true progress of the Indian society. Now, solving the MCQ. According to Radhakrishna, which are the main barriers which stand in the way of nation's development? A. Ignorance. B. Disease. C. Poverty. D. All of them. The answer will be all of them. We have recently studied ignorance, disease, and poverty are main barriers which stand in the way of nation's development. Humanities training and technological study must be regarded as dash to each other, complementary to each other, opposite to each other, contradictory to each other, similar to each other. The humanities training must be regarded as complementary to each other. Consider Blake's statement, the tree of life is sustained by the art, the tree of death by science. The author agrees. The Sarvapalli Radhakrishna agrees with Blake statement, disagrees, agrees, or praises Blake for this idea, does not understand Blake's intention. He disagrees with Blake. Blake's. He disagrees. They are complementary. Blake's disagrees. The main barriers: ignorance, disease, and poverty. For dash is aroused by literature. Dash makes the scientist progress. Option A: imagination and intellectual. Intellectual and imagination. Imagination is aroused by literature. Imagination makes the scientific progress. Intellect and intellect. For A: imagination is aroused by literature and intellect makes the scientific progress. The author feels that we live today because of industrial progress, mechanical efficiency, the power of atom bombs. We live because of today because of spirituality and culture. Spirituality. What was the life and works of the great Indian classical writer Sarvapalli Radhakrishna? Discuss his major works and contributions in Indian writing. Sarvapalli Radhakrishna was an Indian philosopher, statesman, and educator who made significant contributions to the country's political and intellectual climate. Indian philosopher. On September 5th, 1888, in Tirutani, a town in the former Madras Presidency of British India, now in the Indian state of Tamil Nadu, in 5th September, September 5th, 1888, in Tirutani, a town in the former Madras Presidency of British India, now in the Indian state of Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu, India. Sarvapalli Radhakrishna was born. Here was the place 5th September 1888 in Tirutani, Tamil Nadu, Indian. This was the place, Tamil Nadu, where he was born, and he received his early schooling in Tirupati and then Vellore. Radhakrishna's aptitude for academics encouraged him to pursue higher education, and he graduated from the University of Madras with the Masters in Philosophy. Masters in Philosophy. In 1909, Radhakrishna started his academic career. 1909, he started his academic career as a lecturer in the Madras Presidency College Department of Philosophy. He went on to become a well-known philosopher and was acknowledged globally for his contributions to Indian philosophy. He became known as a prominent philosopher due to his interpretation of Indian philosophical traditions, particularly Vedanta. In addition to his appointment as a philosophy professor at the University of Mysore, Radhakrishna also had positions at the University of Calcutta. His distinction in the classroom and his contributions to philosophy earned him the position of Vice Chancellor of Andhra University, which he held from 1931 to 1936. When Radhakrishna entered the diplomatic sphere, his involvement in public life grew. From 1949 to 1952, he represented India as the Indian ambassador of the Soviet Union. In addition, he served as India's ambassador to the UN from 1952 to 1954. The election of Radhakrishna as the India's first vice president in 1952 marked one of the most momentous moments in his life. He held this position until 1962. Later, from 1962 to 1967, he served as President of India. Throughout his time as President, Radhakrishna worked hard to improve cross-cultural understanding and fortify India's educational system. In addition to his position in academia and diplomacy, Radhakrishna was a prolific writer. He received great praise for his books on philosophy, religion, and culture. Prominent literary pieces comprise Indian philosophy and the Hindu view of life. His scholarly contributions aided in closing the conceptual divide between Eastern and Western philosophy, reduced gap between the conceptual gap between the Western and Eastern philosophy. The contributions made by Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan to philosophy and public service have had a lasting impact on Indian political and intellectual history. In India, September 5th, his birthday is observed as Teachers' Day in recognition of his dedication to learning. His birthday is celebrated as Teachers' Day in recognition of his dedication to learning and the teaching profession. In conclusion, Radhakrishna was a renowned statesman, philosopher, and academic whose varied career had a significant influence on India's political and intellectual climate. Provide a summary of Humanity versus Science by Dr. Sarvepalli Krishna. The article Humanity versus Science by Sarvepalli Radhakrishna examines the interrelationships between science and humanity, highlighting the complementary roles that each play in the advancement and comprehension of humankind. Philosopher and statesman Radhakrishna contends that although science gives rise to material progress and technological innovations, humanity makes sure that these advances are applied for the benefit of society as a whole. He emphasizes how science raises living standards and solves real-world problems through empirical research and innovative technology. Radhakrishna, however, issues a warning regarding the possible perils of science when it is separated from morality and human values. According to him, the real goal of scientific knowledge ought to be to improve human welfare and promote a more profound comprehension of existence. Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan asserts that ignorance, illness, and poverty are the three things standing in the path of a country's progress. It is possible to abolish the other two by eliminating ignorance. People with education, competence, talent, direction, and a social mission have the power to change the world. Humanistic studies are a necessary complement technology complement to technology education, as Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan notes, or it will be incomplete and flawed. Science that is separated from moral principle is unacceptable. Consequently, he suggests studying the humanities and sciences together. Science is power and knowledge combined. It is useful as well as entertaining. It requires diligence and self-control. It cultivates a mindset of acceptance, curiosity, liberation from bias, and hospitality toward novel concepts. It demonstrates the world abundance to us. In the modern world, understanding science is indispensable, but science needs to be pointed in the proper direction because they teach us about our own nature and how we can meditate more deeply on life. The humanities are equally vital. Apart from technological expertise, we also require humanity as wisdom. Indian wisdom was historically linked to wisdom from various regions of the world. For instance, the Greek, Roman, and West Asian cultures have influenced mathematics and medicine. Tautology, that arthau is a notion that is highly valued in our religion. Humanity has moral and ethical components that influence the application of scientific knowledge and its effect on society. According to Radhakrishna, attaining a sustainable and balanced future requires integrating humanistic ideals with scientific advancement. He promotes a system of education that fosters ethical thinking in addition to scientific research. Ethical plus scientific research, guaranteeing that scientific discoveries serve the interests of all people. Since God is truth, God is the one searching for truth. Many individuals contributed to scientific advancement, including the Englishman Newton, the German Kepler, the Pole Copernicus, and the Italian Galileo. Every discovery demonstrated the mutual influence of science and religion. There is no division in truth. The methods may differ, but the end result is always the sum, whether it is literary, scientific, or historical truth. The issue with universities is that they turn out men who are either mechanically skilled or seers. A combination of the two is feasible. In general, Radhakrishna's article emphasizes how crucial it is to balance advancement in science and moral principle. Balance in both the advancement in science moral principle in order to create a society that is more just and enlightened. Balance advancement in science and with moral principles in order to create a society that is more just and enlightened. The dynamic interplay between scientific discoveries and human values is examined in Sarvepalli Radhakrishna's book Human versus Science. Prominent philosopher and statesman Radhakrishna discusses how science affects human life and society, highlighting the necessity for a balanced strategy that combines scientific advancement with moral and social issues. The essay challenges the concept that is challenges the concept that science can solve every human issue on its own and makes the case for a comprehensive approach that recognizes the inherent worth of humanistic principles. Radhakrishna draws attention to the risks associated with reducing human existence to a scientific materialism that ignores the ethical and spiritual aspects of life. Although research can greatly benefit society by advancing technology and raising living standards, he contends that science also needs direction, directed by moral principles derived from human values in order to produce people who can ethically apply scientific knowledge for the benefit of mankind as a whole. Radhakrishna supports an educational system that fosters both scientific inquiry and moral development. The book Human versus Science by Sarvepalli Radhakrishna questions the binary opposition between science and humanity, promoting a peaceful coexistence in which scientific advancements support rather than eclipse the moral obligations and spiritual goals that characterize human existence. एस राधाकृष्णा का लेख मानवता बनाम विज्ञान विज्ञान और मानवता के बीच अंतर संबंधों की जांच करता है, जो मानव जाति की उन्नति और समझ में प्रत्येक भूमिका निभाने वाली मानर्थ भूमिकाओं पर प्रकाश डालता है। दार्शनिक और राजनेता राधाकृष्णा का तर्क है कि यद्यपि विज्ञान भौतिक प्रगति और तकनीकी नवाचारों को जन्म देता है, मानवता यह सुनिश्चित करती है कि इन प्रगतियों को समग्र रूप से समाज के लाभ के लिए लागू किया जाए। वह इस बात पर जोर देते हैं कि कैसे विज्ञान जीवन स्तर को बढ़ाता है और अनुभवजन्य अनुसंधान और नवीन प्रौद्योगिकी के माध्यम से वास्तविक दुनिया की समस्याओं को हल करता है। हालांकि राधाकृष्ण विज्ञान के संभावित खतरों के बारे में चेतावनी जारी करते हैं जब इसे नैतिकता और मानवता मूल्यों के अलग किया जाता है। उनके अनुसार विज्ञान ज्ञान का वास्तव लक्ष्य मानवता कल्याण में सुधार करना है, अस्तित्व की अधिक गहन समझ को बढ़ावा देना है। डॉक्टर एस राधाकृष्णन का दावा है कि अज्ञानता, बीमारी और गरीबी देश की प्रगति के रास्ते हैं। देश की प्रगति के रास्ते में आने वाले 3 चीजें हैं। अज्ञान को दूर करके अन्य 2 को समाप्त करना संभव है। शिक्षा, योग्यता, प्रतिभा, दिशा और सामाजिक मिशन वाले लोगों में दुनिया को बदलने की शक्ति होती है। जैसा कि डॉक्टर एस राधाकृष्ण कहते हैं, मानवतावादी अध्ययन प्रौद्योगिकी शिक्षा के लिए एक आवश्यक पूरक है, अन्यथा यह अधूरा होगा और त्रुटिपूर्ण होगा। नैतिक सिद्धांतों से अलग किया गया विज्ञान अस्वीकार्य है। नतीजतन वह मानविक की और ज्ञान का एक साथ अध्ययन करने का सुझाव देते हैं। विज्ञान शक्ति और ज्ञान का संयुक्त रूप से है। यह मनोरंजन होने के साथ साथ उपयोगी भी है। इसके लिए परिश्रम और आत्मनियंत्रण की आवश्यकता होती है। यह नवीन अवधारणाओं के प्रति स्वीकृत जिज्ञासा, पूर्वाग्रह से मुक्त है और आतिथ्य की मानसिकता विकसित करता है। यह हमारे सामने विश्व की प्रचुरता को प्रदर्शित करता है। आधुनिक दुनिया में विज्ञान को समझना अपरिहार्य है, लेकिन विज्ञान को उचित दिशा में ले जाने की जरूरत है, क्योंकि वे हमें हमारी प्रकृति के बारे में सिखाते हैं और हम जीवन पर अधिक गहराई से ध्यान कैसे कर सकते हैं। मानविकी भी उतनी ही महत्वपूर्ण है। तकनीकी विशेषज्ञता के अलावा हमें मानवता और ज्ञान की भी आवश्यकता है। भारतीय ज्ञान ऐतिहासिक रूप से दुनिया के विभिन्न क्षेत्रों के ज्ञान से जुड़ा हुआ था। उदाहरण के लिए ग्रीक, रोमन और पश्चिम रशियाई संस्कृतियों ने गणित और चिकित्सा को प्रभावित किया है। तत्त्वमसि वह तू है एक ऐसी धारणा है जिसे हमारे धर्म में अत्यधिक महत्व दिया जाता है। मानवता में नैतिक और नैतिक घटक होते हैं जो इसके अनुप्रयोग को प्रभावित करते हैं। वैज्ञानिक ज्ञान और समाज पर इसका प्रभाव राधाकृष्ण के अनुसार एक स्थायी और संतुलित भविष्य प्राप्त करने के लिए वैज्ञानिक प्रगति के साथ मानवतावादी आदर्शों को एकीकृत करने की आवश्यकता है। वह शिक्षा की एक ऐसी प्रणाली को बढ़ावा देते हैं जो वैज्ञानिक अनुसंधान के अलावा नैतिक सोच को बढ़ावा देती है। यह गारंटी देती है कि वैज्ञानिक खोजों सभी लोगों के हितों की सेवा करती है। चूंकि ईश्वर सत्य है, ईश्वर ही सत्य की खोज करने वाला है। कई व्यक्तियों ने वैज्ञानिक प्रगति में योगदान दिया, जिसमें अंग्रेज न्यूटन, जर्मन केपलर, पोल कोपर्निकस और इटालियन गैलीलियो शामिल है। प्रत्येक खोज विज्ञान और धर्म के पारस्परिक प्रभाव को प्रदर्शित करती है। सत्य में कई विभाजन नहीं है, तरीके अलग अलग हो सकते हैं, लेकिन अंतिम परिणाम हमेशा एक ही होता है, चाहे वह साहित्यिक हो, वैज्ञानिक हो या ऐतिहासिक सत्य हो। विश्वविद्यालयों के साथ समस्या यह है कि वे ऐसे लोगों को तैयार करते हैं जो या तो यांत्रिक रूप से कुशल होते हैं या दृष्टा होते हैं। दोनों का संयोजन संभव है। सामान्य तौर पर राधाकृष्ण का लेख इस बात पर जोर देता है कि एक अधिक न्यायपूर्ण और प्रबुद्ध समाज करने के लिए नैतिक सिद्धांतों के साथ विज्ञान में प्रगति को संतुलित करना कितना महत्वपूर्ण है। वैज्ञानिक खोजों और मानवीय मूल्यों के बीच गतिशील परस्पर किया की जांच ऐसे एस राधाकृष्ण की पुस्तक ह्यूमन वर्सेस साइंस में की गई है। प्रमुख दार्शनिक और राजनेता राधाकृष्ण चर्चा करते हैं कि विज्ञान मानव जीवन और समाज को कैसे प्रभावित करता है। एक संतुलित रणनीति के आवश्यकता पर प्रकाश डालता है जो वैज्ञानिक प्रगति को नैतिक और सामाजिक मुद्दों के साथ जोड़ती है। निबंध ऐसी इस अवधारणा को चुनौती देता है कि विज्ञान प्रत्येक मानवीय मुद्दे को अपने आप हल कर सकता है और एक व्यापक दृष्टिकोण का मामला बनाता है, जो मानवतावादी सिद्धांतों के अंतर्निहित मूल्यों को पहचानता है और राधाकृष्ण मानव अस्तित्व को वैज्ञानिक भौतिकवाद की ओर कम करने से जुड़े जोखिमों की ओर ध्यान आकर्षित करते हैं, जो जीवन के नैतिक और आध्यात्मिक पहलुओं की अपेक्षा करता है। हालांकि अनुसंधान प्रौद्योगिकी के को आगे बढ़ाकर और जीवन स्तर को बढ़ाकर समाज को बहुत लाभ पहुंचा सकता है। उनका तर्क है कि विज्ञान को भी मानवीय मूल्यों से प्राप्त नैतिक सिद्धांतों द्वारा निर्देशित करने की आवश्यकता है, ऐसे लोगों को तैयार करने के लिए जो संपूर्ण मानव जाति के लाभ के लिए वैज्ञानिक ज्ञान को नैतिक रूप से लागू कर सके। राधाकृष्ण एक ऐसी शैक्षिक प्रणाली का समर्थन करते हैं जो वैज्ञानिक जांच और नैतिक विकास दोनों को बढ़ावा देती है। एस राधाकृष्ण की पुस्तक मानव बनाम विज्ञान, विज्ञान और मानवता के बीच द्विआधारी विरोध पर सवाल उठाती है, एक शांतिपूर्ण सह अस्तित्व को बढ़ावा देती है जिसमें वैज्ञानिक प्रगति मानव अस्तित्व की विशेषता वाले नैतिक दायित्वों और आध्यात्मिक लक्ष्यों को ग्रहण करने के बजाय समर्थन करती है। Critically analyze S. Radhakrishna's view on the relationship between science and humanity. How does he reconcile the pursuit of scientific progress with the preservation of human values and ethics? A harmonic balance between scientific advancement and ethical issues is emphasized in Sarvapalli Radhakrishna's multidimensional perspective on the line between science and humanity. Complementary roles of science and humanity. Radhakrishnan recognizes the enormous contribution science has made to the improvement of humanity, including advances in science, technology, and the study of natural world. He understands that advances in science and technology have the power to dramatically raise living conditions and provide solutions to urgent global issues. But according to Radhakrishnan, advancement in science are not enough to advance societal well-being, and also human welfare on their own. He contends that a strong civilization of humanistic ideals like empathy, compassion, justice, and ethical responsibility is necessary in addition to scientific research. Ethical responsibility is necessary in addition to scientific research. These ideals act as a framework to guarantee that scientific discoveries are applied morally and for the benefit of all people. Ethical consideration in science. Ethical considerations. The ethical ramifications of scientific research and technological advancements are among Radhakrishna's main worries. He issues a cautionary tale on the perils of science separated from morality, which may result in unforeseen or perhaps harmful outcomes. Radhakrishna promotes a conscientious approach in which moral values and a sense of duty to humanity serves as the foundation for scientific endeavors. Integration of science and ethics. And ethics. Radhakrishna suggests a comprehensive strategy that balances advancements in science with moral principles and human values. He contends that by encouraging a comprehensive understanding of science that takes ethical considerations into account, education is essential to striking this equilibrium. Radhakrishna thinks that people and society make informed decisions about the ethical consequences of scientific achievements by incorporating ethics into scientific education and practice. Critique and relevance. Radhakrishna's focus on ethics and human value has drawn criticism that it would stifle scientific advancements. Critique and relevance. Critique and relevance. They may argue that rigorous adherence to moral principles could impede advancement or result in the chances lost for technical advancements. Furthermore, the speed at which science and technology are developing in the modern day begs the question of whether ethical frameworks are sufficient to handle newly emergent issues like genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and environmental sustainability. Nonetheless, Radhakrishna's viewpoint is still pertinent today, since it emphasizes how crucial ethical consideration and accountability are to scientific pursuits. His observations support further discussion and critical analysis of the moral consequences of scientific advances, especially when it comes to resolving difficult moral conundrums and making sure that technical developments are in line with social demands and human values. Radhakrishnan named poverty, illness, and illiteracy as the main barriers to national progress. He maintained that the secret to overcome these obstacles is to eradicate ignorance by education. He underlined that humanistic subjects should be included in school. In addition to technical capabilities, education becomes inadequate and unable to address the more profound moral and ethical issues that influence society when this balance is lost. Radhakrishna asserts that the sciences are a source of power and knowledge that promote tolerance, creativity, and open-mindedness. But in order to prevent abuse or harm, he issued a warning. Scientific knowledge needs to be informed by moral principles. Conversely, humanities foster wisdom and provide insights into human nature. They teach us about our history, culture, and values, enabling us to understand ourselves and others better. Radhakrishna thought that collaboration between the humanities and science was important. He opposed the notion that there should be a gap between them and supported an education system that integrates moral awareness with technical know-how. He maintained that this integration would result in well-rounded people who could make valuable contributions to society. According to Radhakrishnan, the ultimate purpose of education should be the development of wisdom and self-awareness rather than only the acquisition of knowledge. He held that people who possess not only skill but also compassion and moral integrity are the ones who bring about real change. He thought that by taking a comprehensive approach, people would be better equipped to address societal issues with empathy and compassion. Dr. S. Radhakrishnan's opinion, in summary, stressed the significance of striking a balance between the humanities and science in education. He thought that by combining these two disciplines, we could build a society in which people are empowered to live morally and meaningfully, and where information is about used responsibly. His ideas are still influencing conservations about the direction and goal of education around the globe. The humanities and sciences play complementary roles in education and society's development. According to Dr. S. Radhakrishnan's perspective, he contends that the humanities offer wisdom and moral understanding, while the sciences supply knowledge and useful skills. According to Radhakrishnan, one of the biggest obstacles to advancement is ignorance, and the only way to get past it, via education. He thinks that scientific studies and humanities courses like philosophy, literature, and history should be a part of a well-rounded education. This well-rounded approach guarantees that people gain a deeper awareness of society's concerns and human values in addition to technical capabilities. Radhakrishnan argues that science is necessary for both technical programs and workable solutions to issues, but he cautions that science devoid of morality can be abused and harmful. As a result, he promotes scientific education based on moral values and ethical issues. However, the humanities offer insights into ethics, culture, and behavior in people. They promote the kinds of critical thinking, empathy, and diversity appreciation that are essential to building a peaceful society. According to Radhakrishna's, the humanities educate us about the past and assist us in resolving moral quandaries in the present. In general, Radhakrishna's point of view emphasizes how crucial it is for the humanities and sciences to be integrated into education. He opposes the notion that the two should be divided and instead advocates for an all encompassing strategy that equips people for both ethical responsibility and personal fulfillment. In addition to success in the workplace, his educational theory, which emphasizes the complete development of people as both competent professionals and responsible citizens, continues to have an impact on educational policies and practices throughout the world. Radhakrishnan was an advocate of balancing humanistic principles with scientific understanding. He underlined that although science progresses through empirical observations and experimentations, its ultimate goal should be the ethical and spiritual advancement of humanity. This integration is critical because it guarantees that the advancement of technology is consistent with moral values and the well-being of people. Radhakrishnan criticized scientific perspectives that are exclusively mechanical and reduce people to simple biological or psychological entities. He promoted a comprehensive view that takes into account the moral and spiritual aspects of human existence. This criticism, which calls for a more inclusive strategy that takes into account the intricacies of the human experience, is consistent with larger philosophical debates concerning reductionism in science. Radhakrishna contends that it is the moral duty of scientists to apply their knowledge and discoveries to advance society. He pushed for the inclusion of ethical issues in technological development and scientific study. These viewpoints highlights how crucial it is to utilize scientific information responsibly, taking into account any potential effects on people and communities. Discuss the dual role of science and humanity as presented by S. Radhakrishnan. How does he argue for their complementary in fostering human progress and well-being? Provide examples to illustrate your answer. A thoughtful analysis of dual roles of science and humanity is provided by S. Radhakrishnan, who contends that both are necessary to promote human development and well-being, and that their complementary is important to ensure the fair and moral advancement of society. Science advancement and innovation. Radhakrishnan recognizes that science has the ability to change the world by expanding human understanding and enhances material circumstances. Science has made major accomplishments possible through its inventive technologies and rigorous techniques of investigation, including medicine science. Medical science has produced vaccines, antibiotics, and surgical techniques that have significantly lowered death rates and raised quality of life. Scientifically derived technologies such as computers, telecommunication, and renewable energy sources have transformed daily life and industries, boosting productivity and connectedness as a worldwide scale. Scientific advancement in disciplines such as biology, chemistry, and physics have expanded our knowledge of the cosmos ecosystem and the underlying principle that govern them. Humanity, humanity, ethical framework and values. Ethical framework and values. Radhakrishnan highlights the significance of humanity ethical frameworks, values, and consideration that determine how scientific information is implemented and its impact on society. In contrast to the empirical focus of science, a few instances of humanity's role are humanity makes sure that scientific discoveries are applied morally, upholding the environment, human rights, and dignity. Discussing discussions concerning the morality of genetic engineering as or artificial intelligence, for example, emphasize the importance of carefully weighing the advantages and disadvantages of each option. Humanistic viewpoints ensure that scientific advancements help all societal groups and respects a variety of worldviews by taking into account cultural diversity and social equality. Radhakrishna is an advocate of educational system that foster moral and recognition, ethical reasoning. In addition to scientific knowledge, this dual strategy aids in the decision making process for both people and civilizations regarding scientific and technical advancements. Radhakrishna contends that the synthesis of scientific knowledge and humanistic ideals is necessary for the actual growth of human progress. He argues that although science gives rise to material advancements, humanity makes sure that these advancements are directed by social duty, fairness, and compassion. Policies and technology targeted at preventing climate change are informed by scientific understanding of environmental processes, but it is morally required of scientific of humanity to but it is morally required of humanity to put sustainability first and save ecosystems for coming generations. Technological development in medicine bring up moral concerns concerning patent, patient autonomy, privacy, and healthcare access. Humanistic factors make ensuring that medical procedures respect beneficence and non-maleficence, striking a balance between the needs of patient and scientific progress. Scientific advancements in domains like biotechnology and artificial intelligence give rise to moral conundrums of discrimination, privacy, and possible abuse. These technologies are developed, regulated in accordance with human ethical frameworks in order to advance justice and the good of society. S. Radhakrishnan's viewpoint emphasizes that although science and humanity function in different fields, empirical research versus moral and ethical considerations, their cooperation is crucial to the advancement of mankind as a whole. Radhakrishna argues for a balanced strategy that makes sure the advantages of scientific progress are shared fairly and responsibly across global population by fusing scientific discoveries with ethical ideals and societal issues. The fundamental philosophical stance of Dr. S. Radhakrishnan is a hybrid of absolute idealism and Advaita Vedanta. He adopts the Vedanta reality monistic nature and blends it with some of the key elements of absolute idealism. As a Vedanta, he maintains that there is just one reality as an absolute idealism. He demonstrates how everything is an essential part of that one reality. Not only is he an idealist, he was a super universalist and humanist. His philosophy explains how humanism that is spiritualistic. According to humanism, man is good at heart, and that bad only exists in society and the surroundings he lives in. If these things are eliminated, man's goodness will manifest and progress will be made. Humanism contends that the perfection of humanity is our objective and that this world is our primary concern in opposition to religion, because the inner feeling of the relationship between God and man is obligated to issue in the sense of service of mankind. According to Radhakrishna, there is no conflict between religion and humanism. Since the inner feeling of the relationship between God and man is obligated to be in the service of mankind, Radhakrishna contends that there is no conflict between religion and humanism. The social output of religion, the religious life is important, but the most effective servants of society are those who develop their inner lives. Radhakrishna profound knowledge of Indian philosophy and spirituality, which he attempted to harmonize with contemporary scientific ideas, influenced his opinions. He placed a strong emphasis on human values and universal ethical principles that may heal cultural divisions and promote world peace. This method emphasizes how important it is for scientific pursuits to be sensitive to cultural differences and pursue common goals of human well-being, recognizing the complementary roles that science and humanities play in enhancing human understanding. Radhakrishna promoted a positive interaction between the two fields. He thought that combining knowledge from the two fields could result in a more all-encompassing worldview that takes into account both the existential and material aspects of human existence. This multidisciplinary method stimulates higher learning, and a more profound understanding of human nature. The opinions of Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan regarding the interaction of science and humanity reveal a complex viewpoint emphasizing moral accountability, comprehension, and cultural awareness. His observations are still relevant when debating the moral implications of scientific advancement and the synthesis of many knowledge systems for the good of humanity. In Radhakrishnan's humanistic fields like philosophy, ethics, and spirituality should be combined with science, which emphasizes empirical observations and experimentations to comprehend the physical world. The integration offers a comprehensive view of human existence that takes into account the moral and spiritual aspects of life in addition to materialism. He underlined that intellectuals and scientists have an ethical duty to apply their knowledge and discoveries to advance humankind. Radhakrishna thought that scientific development should take into account their effects on society and the environment in addition to their pursuit of technological improvement. This ethical component makes sure that scientific endeavors advance social fairness and human well-being. Radhakrishna promoted cultural spiritual harmony as crucial for human advancement, drawing on Indian philosophical traditions. He thought that knowledge of many cultural viewpoints and spiritual values should be added to scientific knowledge. This inclusivity encourages respect across many communities, through approach to tackling global issues. Humanism, in Radhakrishna's opinion, is essential to both social progress and scientific study. He maintained that humanistic principles like empathy, compassion, and social justice need to direct scientific advancement. This viewpoint guarantees that technology progresses for the benefit of all and enhances human dignity and well-being. In order to handle complicated societal concerns, Radhakrishna promoted communication and cooperation amongst scientists, humanists, legislators, and communities. He thought that in order to effectively address issues like poverty, inequality, climate change, and healthcare disparities, interdisciplinary approaches were essential. Diverse viewpoints can be used to generate creative solutions that advance human progress and well-being by fusing scientific knowledge with insights from the humanities. He maintained that promoting human advancements and well-being requires that science and humanity be complementary in order to address global concerns and advance a more just and equitable society. He envisioned a harmonious strategy that integrated scientific knowledge with ethical considerations, cultural sensitivity, and humanistic values. His viewpoints are still relevant in today's conversations concerning the moral ramifications of scientific discoveries and the contribution of humanities fields to the creation of a sustainable human future. In Humanity versus Science, S. Radhakrishna warns against the dangers of science. Divorced from ethical considerations, explain his concerns and discuss how he proposes to mitigate the risks. In Humanity versus Science, S. Radhakrishnan poses important questions: the risks associated with research when it is pursued without sufficient ethical thought. His concerns are part of a larger philosophical position that stresses the need to combine scientific growth with moral values to make sure that advances help rather than hurt humanity. Concerns about science diverge from ethics. Science divorced from ethics. Radhakrishna voices concern over the possibility of scientific developments being abused to appear, oppress, or take advantage of populations, especially in areas like surveillance system and weaponry technology. He issues a warning against the advancement of technology that puts control and power ahead of moral principles like respect for human rights and dignity. The environmental effects of scientific advancements must frequently be morally evaluated. Radhakrishnan emphasizes the necessity for sustainable behavior and regulations, while pointing out the risks of environmental degradation brought on by industrialization and technological progress. Biotechnology and genetic engineering advances provide moral conundrums in relation to genetic modification, privacy, and possibility of allegiances. Radhakrishnan makes the case for moral standards and laws to guarantee that these technologies are applied sensibly and to everyone's advantage. Radhakrishna criticizes how advancements in science have the potential to worsen societal injustices, especially if the advantages of new technologies are not shared fairly. He supports moral frameworks that give social justice and inclusive development first priority. Mitigating risks, Radhakrishna's proposals. Mitigating risks. Radhakrishna suggests a number of steps to incorporate ethical issues into scientific endeavors. In order to allay these worries, he highlights how crucial it is to teach scientists and researchers social responsibility and ethical reasoning, in addition to technical skills, fostering us through awareness of the possible effects that scientific research may have on people, communities, and the environment is on way to do this. In order to evaluate the ethical review boards and oversight procedures, these boards would make sure that research complies with social norms and values by evaluating proposals in accordance with ethical standards. Ethical standards. In order to create moral principles that cut beyond national borders, Radhakrishna emphasizes the significance of international cooperation and collaboration, creating international agreements on moral standards in fields like technological governance, like technological governance, bioethics, bioethics, and environmental protection. Is part of this. The hazards of science separated from ethical issues, as raised by Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, highlight the necessity for a balanced approach to scientific advancement. In order to promote a more conscientious and compensate use of information, Radhakrishna integrates ethical concepts into scientific research and technological advancement in order to reduce the risks associated with unregulated scientific discoveries and to foster a future in which scientific progress is in line with human values and positively impacts social well-being. He has proposed measures for ethical education, oversight, public participation, and international collaboration. Dr. Radhakrishna is a well-known educator who has a reputation for possessing exceptional exceptional intellectual capacity. In addition to his teaching experience, he served as vice chancellor of several universities. Vice chancellor of some universities, where he gained substantial experience in educational administration. In 1941, he chaired the Commission on University. 1948, he chaired the Commission for University, which is also known as Radhakrishnan's Commission. Commissions on University of Education, which is now known as Universities Grand Commission, UGC. Now it is known as UGC. He contends that the importance of human making education should outweigh that of academic instruction alone. Additionally, he was in favor of the notion that a person is composed of a body, mind, and soul. Given the current environment, educational institutions might host seminars, spiritual talks, and religious instruction. These days, education is viewed as a means of obtaining employment of any kind, particularly white collar positions. Therefore, in this context, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan's thoughts are noteworthy. He favored a democratic government and unrestricted discipline. His discipline related concepts are very relevant to contemporary culture. It has been found that the quantitative expansion of education, especially at the higher education level, has resulted in a decline in the standard of education. In the modern world, institutions that had the barest minimum of amenities, when they opened, his suggestions are relevant for slowing down the expansion of higher education in order to stop its downfall. A good teaches, according to Dr. Radhakrishnan, is someone who is knowledgeable about their subject and who is a lifelong learner. An excellent teacher ought to be objective, humble, and open to feedback. These days, some educators have adopted a cold, robotic demeanor. Their field wit and repute have left them behind. It is the instructor's materialistic attitude, crammed classrooms, and political meddling that prevent them from doing their jobs well. Thus, he emphasized that in light of Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan's educational philosophies, it is both necessary and appropriate to realize the realize the educational system, revolutionize the education system. How does Radhakrishnan proposes to integrate ethical principles into scientific progress to make sure that scientific discoveries are made in a way that benefits humanity morally and responsibly? S. Radhakrishnan suggests a number of ways to incorporate ethical ideas into scientific breakthroughs. The significance of integrating ethical education into scientific training is emphasized by Radhakrishnan. He contends that in addition to having strong technological abilities, scientists and researchers ought to have a through comprehension of ethical frameworks. They would be able to think about the ethical ramifications of their discoveries and studies. Thanks to this education, Radhakrishnan is an advocate of through oversight and ethical review procedures. He recommends creating committees are review boards dedicated to the ethical evaluation of research programs and proposals. These panels would make sure that scientific findings are consistent with society's norms and values. Radhakrishnan emphasizes the importance of having candid conversation with ethicists, scientists, and general publics. Ethicists, scientists, and general public. Discussions on the moral implications of scientific discoveries can take place thanks to public involvement, which also influences the creation of laws that support ethical science. Ethical science. Why does Radhakrishna emphasizes the role of education in fostering a balanced approach in science and humanity? Researcher and scientist knowledge of ethics is fostered by education. Future professionals can develop a sense of responsibility and ethical reasoning by including ethical considerations into scientific training. This guarantees that scientific progress is made while taking society and ethical concerns into account. Education fosters critical thinking abilities that are necessary for accessing the moral implications of technical advancement and scientific study. It enables people to weigh the advantages and disadvantages of scientific discoveries, encouraging responsible behavior, and well-informed decision making. According to Radhakrishnan's education should emphasize humanistic principles like empathy, compassion, justice, and social responsibility in addition to technical knowledge. This principle guides scientists to researchers in applying their knowledge to advance human welfare and the good of society. In order to promote public comprehension of science and its ethical consequences, education is essential. Education makes it possible for the general public to participate in ethical discussions and have informed a public conversation about scientific discoveries by fostering scientific literacy and ethical consciousness. The long-term sustainability of advances is ensured by education future generations about the science significance of integrating ethical ideals with scientific progress. It lays the groundwork for moral behavior in technological advancement and scientific research will minimizing hazards of and optimizing social gains. When essentially, Radhakrishnan makes the case that education plays a critical role in forming a comprehensive perspective on science and mankind, a balanced viewpoint that guarantees that scientific advancement is in line with moral standards and advances humanity as a whole is fostered by education through the integration of ethical education into scientific training and the promotion of humanistic values. What does Radhakrishna suggest about the global consideration needed to address ethical challenges in scientific research and development? According to Radhakrishnan, effective worldwide cooperation is necessary to handle ethical issues in scientific research and development. Radhakrishna is an advocate for the creation of global moral principles that cut beyond national borders. He created the advocate of global moral principles. This guideline should offer an international framework for evaluating the moral consequences of scientific research and technological advancement. Countries can enhance their collaboration and guarantee uniformity in ethical conduct in diverse settings by reaching a consensus on ethical standards. He highlights the value of international collaboration between ethicists, scientists, researchers, and politicians. Working together makes it possible to share best practice information and experience in resolving moral dilemmas brought on by scientific breakthrough. This group effort improves the ability to create moral standards, laws, and policies that take into account many viewpoints and global issues. He suggests international system for monitoring and reviewing scientific research for ethics. International committees or agencies may be set up to assess research proposals, make sure that moral standards are followed, and keep an eye on how scientists are conducting themselves ethically around the world. This would support ethical behavior prevention and responsible scientific methods globally. He emphasizes that countries, organizations, researchers, and the larger international community all have a shared obligation to solve ethical issues in scientific research and development. Working together ensures that moral issues are taken into account as science advances, which promotes transparency, accountability, and faith in scientific pursuits. Radhakrishna emphasizes how critical it is to advance ethical consciousness and education on a worldwide scale, making ethical decisions, and acting morally are encouraged when scientists, decision makers, and the great general public are educated about ethical challenges in science. This pedagogical strategy cultivates a global culture of accountability and reference for moral standards. Accountability for moral standards and reverence for moral standards for moral standards in scientific inquiry and advancement. Now, what objective type question? MCQs. What does Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan emphasize as essential for mitigating the risk of scientific progress, technological innovation, ethical consideration, economic growth, political stability? Ethical considerations. Ethical considerations. Reasoning Radhakrishnan argues that scientists without ethics is dangerous and that science diverse from moral values is unacceptable, requiring moral compass to prevent destructive consequences. According to Radhakrishna, why is context is education is crucial. Context. Why is context education? Education crucial in the context of science and humanity. Science and humanity. According to that, why is education crucial in the context of science and humanity? To promote scientific completion, to foster critical thinking and ethical awareness, to increase industrial productivity, to enhance military capabilities, to promote scientific cooperation, no. To foster critical thinking and ethical awareness. Argues the integration of science and humanities are ensures technological dominance, science and global conflict resolution, human progress and well-being, cultural conservation, human progress and well-being. What role does Radhakrishna suggest for ethical standards in scientific research and development? They are unnecessary impediments to progress. They are unnecessary impediments to progress. This should be nationalized to suit local content. This should be universally established and followed. They are irrelevant to see scientific inquiry. This should be universally established and followed. How does Radhakrishna propose to address ethical challenges in scientific research globally? Propose to address ethical challenges in scientific research globally. Through political alliance, by promoting technological through international cooperation and shared responsibility. Through international cooperation and shared responsibility. Any limiting sentence? No. Through international cooperation and shared responsibility. What is the primary concern? S.Radhakrishnan raises regarding the relationship between science and humanity. They lack technological advancement, ethical implications, like ethical implications of scientific progress, economic disparity caused by scientific research, political interference in scientific progress, ethical implications of scientific progress. According to Radhakrishna, what is the role of human in relation to scientific advancement? To slow down technological progress, to provide funding for scientific research, to ensure that scientific knowledge benefits society ethically, to compete with other nations in scientific advancement achievements. Radhakrishnan suggests that integrating ethical principles with scientific progress helps to increase industrial output, ensure global dominance, expand scientific patents, foster sustainable development. What does Radhakrishnan propose as a measure to mitigate the risks of science diverse from ethical consideration? Increase government regulation of scientific research, implementation of universal ethical standards, limiting access to scientific knowledge, promoting scientific competition among nations, increase government regulations of scientific research, implementation of universal ethical standards. In Radhakrishna's view, what is the significance of education imbalance in science? Science and humanity. It encourages scientific specialization, it fosters critical thinking and ethical awareness. It promotes political alliance among scientists. It prioritizes economic growth over ethical considerations. It fosters critical thinking and ethical awareness. And some important questions, previous questions. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan was honored with Bharat Ratna in the year 1948. The University Education Commission is also known as set up in 1948. 1954. It is 1954. In 1948, he set up University Education Commission. He received, he was honored with Bharat Ratna in the year 1954. The University Education Commission set up in 1948 is also known as Radha Krishna's Krishna's Commission. Radha Krishna's Commission. Some important questions. Bring out the major views of Radhakrishnan on education in humanities and science. Technological studies without humanistic studies, according to Radhakrishnan, will be imperfect, lopsided, and deficient. Important questions. In this, write the importance of ethical values in science. Without ethical values, science is incomplete. It's the same question. Technological studies without humanistic studies, according to, is very dangerous and imperfect, have peril effects on society. That's why ethical values important, is very important. And also he disagrees the bleak ideas of only promoting to uh, humanities and no not promoting to scientific technological achievements, because it is lopsided, one is greater and other is lower. That's why both are important. Ethical plus scientific development, humanities and science, both are very important. Balance between both ethical values and science technological studies. Thank you everyone. Meet you in the next class of Wings of Fire by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam.